OC.
Who's OC? Hosea, right. So you know what? If what you're saying is true, then when we go to Hosea where this is quoted, it's going to be talking about everybody. Finish it.
I will call them my people, which were not my people.
That's talking about non-Jews, you're saying?
What? Those who are not my people, I will now call my people.
You're saying that's talking about non-Jews?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It's like, and her beloved, which was not beloved. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall they be called the children of the living God.
So, if we want to find out if what you're saying is true or what I'm saying is true, you know where we got to go? Hosea. Let's go to Hosea 1:10.
Hosea is still mostly for the Israelite stuff.
Oh, so why was he quoting Hosea?
Because it still applies to us too.
But you just said, hold on, no.
You get my point.
Because you just said that was for non-Israelites. So
I'm saying it's talking about non-Israelites, the people who are not his people at the time.
Let's go to Hosea and see who Hosea is talking about.
It talks about both Jews and Gentiles.
Okay, that's what he said. Hosea talks about both Jews and Gentiles. Let's read Hosea.
So you're saying
let's read Hosea.
Jews are not God.
We're going to read the word. We're going to read the word of God.
So from this word alone, you're saying
Hosea 1:10.
Not my people were Jews.
The book of Hosea, chapter 1, verse 10.
Let's read what Hosea says.
Yet the number of the children of Israel.
Who?
Of Israel.
All nations.
Of Israel.
Of the Gentiles.
Of Israel.
The children of Israel. Go ahead.
Shall be as the sand of the sea.
Go ahead.
Which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them,
meaning Israel. Go ahead.
Ye are not my people.
Go ahead.
There it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God.
I thought you said this was for everybody.
This is still for everyone. There's still people
where does it say everybody?
Wait.
You said Hosea was going to say Jews and everybody. Hosea just said Israel.
No, I'm saying that when it says those who are not my people, those who are not my people, those aren't Jews.
But it just
aren't.
Hosea just said it was
aren't
the
the
Jews.
part of the Israelites yet because they still put their faith in Christ.
You said in Hosea it would say this to the non-Jews. In Hosea,
I'm saying those who are not my people are talking about the non-Jews, those people who aren't born from the line of Abraham.
Let's read it again.
Those people who aren't born from the line of Abraham.
Who is this to?
Yet the number of the children of Israel.
Of who?
Of Israel.
Of who?
Of Israel.
We're only talking about Israel, go ahead.
Yeah, but they can still be a part of Israel because if they have their faith in Jesus Christ.
The word of God.
What?
You're interrupting the word of God. He's reading the word of God.
I'm interrupting the word of God that's read out of context.
No, we're reading it completely in context.
I'm saying you can still be as
the sand of the
sea.
Shall be as what?
The sand of the sea.
Go ahead.
Which cannot be measured, nor numbered, and it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people.
Go ahead.
There shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God.
Where's the other nations?
I'm not saying nations.
Where are they in that
non-Jews who weren't born as Jews.
Where are the non-Jews in that verse?
They're the people who don't have their faith in Jesus yet.
It doesn't say that.
No, that's what it talks about. That's how Paul says in Romans. That's how Paul. That's how Paul. That's what Paul says in the later verses.
So let me ask you this: Why were the Israelites here being told they're not God's people?
What? Wait. Hosea 1. Hold on.
Yeah. See the problem here? You don't know the Bible.
Yeah, Christians don't know the Bible. They don't. Hey, shalom, everybody. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all can hear me loud and clear. What's going down? Y'all already know what it is. This is Cross the Line Radio. We've been doing this for over 10 years. All right, we got ones. We coming in loud and clear. Anybody wants smoke, you can get your issue. Step right up. The phone line is going to be wide open, or if you want to just have a conversation. Captain Zariak, I think he said he was going to pop in a few. Not 100% sure. He might. You never know. But lot going on in the world. Lot going on in Israel. A lot going on in general. A couple of things that had happened. One, Stranger Things dropped. Very excited about that. 2, what else goes on? With Matun, right? And what we did with the Knetchels, whatever, Cliff and Stewart. I just want to tell you that was a body bag session. We are going to be doing a review. but we're going to be doing a review Sunday. We're almost actually at 1 million views right now. I mean, even the actual clips that I shared went crazy. 400,000 views, 100,000 views over here and there. Somebody joined in the back. I'm gonna bring you on in a minute. And when I tell you, it literally went crazy. We had a great time. And I learned, you understand, just like Christians will know Christ wasn't born on the 25th and still put a Christmas tree in their house and still celebrate, because Christians do not follow Christ. Y'all can see that when I told it's messed up because he old, but it's funny as hell. What I told Cliff, I will smack the fire out of you, man. And then he turned around and was like, I can't and this is what they cut off. He said, I can't tell you that I won't do. I said, so you don't follow Christ. So you want to hold me to a standard that you won't follow yourself. That's hypocrisy, which is pretty much the root of Christianity. Pretty amazing. What else goes on, man? I'm not sure if Cap's running a sale. Make sure you check out his oils. I'm going to drop a link in the chat in a few for my new book. It's available in the TikTok shop right now. That's the only place that you can get it. Make sure that y'all tap in with it. Am I missing anything else? Pay your Passover fee, man. If you haven't already, get the link to the Passover hotel. Make sure everybody comes through. April 4th, Houston, Texas. It's going down. It's going to be an amazing, amazing, amazing time, amazing year. Super excited. Myself and Captain Zark, we got a couple of other things in the works coming up in the near future. So if y'all haven't, make sure you subscribe to Cross the Line and Captain Zaryak TV. And yeah, man, like, this is the real season. It is just open season on Christians right now. And it's an incredible time to be in the truth, man. It absolutely is. So let me see. Once again, phone lines are going to be wide open. I'm going to be dropping the link in the chat. If y'all want to be able to come on screen, the number is 917-779-9499. You understand? Anybody is invited. Anybody could get their issue. But we do got somebody in the back right now. I got a couple of things that I do want to talk about, but I will bring this guest on. This is Cliff E. What's going down?
What's going on, Cap? How you feeling?
Not bad. Yourself? What's happening?
I'm doing all right. I ain't gonna interrupt your flow just yet. I'm gonna let you get going, and then I do have a couple questions, but I'll a little bit later.
No, we could talk about it, man. I'll in between the rest of the show, man, I'll get to some of them issues. I definitely want to talk about the Christmas tree being an idol. Another thing I want to talk about is Trump ordering airstrikes in Nigeria because it's a Christian country. But I just wonder why they don't consider the Christians the so-called Mexicans that are Christians. I want to know why they don't consider them when they drag them out. You understand, and put out propaganda. You understand, talking about you're going ho ho home during the Christmas season, which thought was a time of joy. But what's your questions, brother?
Well, first, I want to say thank you. I appreciate you in advance for taking your time to number one, to put on these shows and answer these questions. I'll be honest, I do have just a couple pushback questions. I watched all your videos that you posted on the 12 tribe chart, and I have a number of issues, with some of the information that was put forth.
Okay.
I actually, I have a transcript, so I actually have documented pretty much everything that was said from the video. But two things that I wanted to point on just for the sake of time. The first thing is there's a map that you guys tend to use that refers to the west coast of Africa, particularly the country that we now know as Benin, as it says Judah on the map. I've seen a few folks kind of present that map as sort of a piece of evidence or justification that folks that was moved from the transatlantic slave trade to America from that port, that map somehow connects to the historical tribe of Judah, the tribe of Judah from Israel. And I just wanted to know, is that true, or what's your position on that map? I did see you mention it in one of the videos. And then my second question would be the South America. So some of the tribes that are linked to South America, there are known tribes that were in South America prior to any Israelite diaspora. So I just want to know how you kind of reconcile those two things.
Okay. So I guess the first thing would be, that's a legitimate map. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an actual historical
right, yeah,
map.
I agree. Yeah. Yep.
And the reason as to why they put Judah on that map is I don't have any of, if I would have known you were going to call, I probably could have, you know what I'm saying, actually had some of either the books or sources from, like, for example, like the Dutch, French, English, and Portuguese, who were over inside of West Africa and interacted with some of these tribes. And in the same capacity that you have conquistadors, Italian explorers, different, you know what I'm saying, people from different cultures who were studying the North, Central, and South American Indians, is the same way that they were interacting with the tribes there. And when they observed them, they were observing, you know, Levitical law. They were observing Deuteronomy. They were observing that they practice these cultures and that they're separate and different from quote unquote African tribes, which is why they literally called them Negroes and not from the tribe that was indigenous to that area. So the reason as to where that paradigm comes from, or that map, which is what we stated, is from the people who interacted with that tribe, stating that there was a presence there of quote unquote who they thought so-called Africans were, who were actually Jews.
Okay.
That's
and
what
then if I could just touch in on that one.
All right.
So that map, I do agree that map is legit. However, I trace my people back to West Africa, so particularly to areas in that region, and that map.
How do you trace them?
Through our records and DNA. So we have family records that trace back to some Native American tribes on my mother's side. I mean, I'm sorry, on my father's side. Not my father, my mother's side. And then we have there's a split that goes back to what's, I guess, what you would call now Sierra Leone and Nigeria. So okay. So we're very in touch with some folks back then, and I just wanted to point out that on that map.
And what'd you do? And just for the DNA, and what did you do to test the DNA? I'm just curious.
I think some years back, I do a few folks in our family did 23andMe. Some folks did Ancestry. This was before they were actually taking DNA, so they were just tracing records. Okay. And then the 23andMe, obviously they do DNA, but that was just more for like novelty purposes and, you know, just some informational purposes. But one thing that I wanted to mention was that on that map, what I guess you guys consider to be the where the tribe of Judah was on that map, I just wanted to point out that's a transliteration of the name Huida. So there was a kingdom there named Huida, and it's spelled XWEDA, and Judah, JUDA, is just the way one country translated that word. So there was an actual kingdom there, and what we now know as Benin. So there's a city in Benin named Ouida, Ouida, and that's where those people actually trace back to. And their language is actually from a what's called a Congo GBE Central African tribal language, and it shares no semblance to Hebrew whatsoever. So I was just curious about that map, because although it's translated or transliterated as Judah, it's actually a European translation of the word Huida, which is XWEDA. Right. And even though and those people actually participated in the slave trade, so they were actually buying and selling, and when they ran out of slaves, they would actually sell their own people. And this is widely documented, because there were some tribes, local tribes, that they actually had to go help them capture some of those slaves to sell to the Europeans when they came. So they actually ran that port. It was a kingdom. They had a king and everything. So right. I'm just curious about how you would have such a large group of the diaspora in one place that's an established kingdom that had a king, and then all those people were somehow known to be Jews, and then translated to the transatlantic slave trade. When even though all those people that left that port weren't actually from that area, they would actually go capture people from areas like the Congo and things like that and come over, because when they came to America, none of these people spoke the same languages. That's why they couldn't communicate. They would mix in families. So when they came to America, they couldn't communicate, and then what do you call it? Make an uprising, basically.
So just so you know, and if that's this way, you can understand our stance too. We never turn around and said that that's the only place that they came from, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
We're making references to why Judah is on that map, especially with the evidence of, like, you know what I'm saying? I named several historians that a lot of the writings were mainly in Portuguese and, you know what I'm saying, Dutch, things like that, from who was actually interacting during that time in Africa, because they were saying that that's who the people were in that area. Our stance isn't that Africans sold Africans. Our stance is that at large, Hamites or Africans sold Jews. So I would be in complete agreement with you that the indigenous of that land were not Judites or Jews, and were actually selling the Jews. Just like there were several tribes. You had the one that them bald-headed women in Wakanda Forever. You know what I'm saying? Based on the Dahomey tribe.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? Like, so we know about the Akan Empire and then the different tribes in their expansion and who they were conquering and then transporting in and out of these ports. But it just so happened that these people were the same people who were on record following Leviticus, having quote unquote Judaic, using that term loosely, traditions, you know what I'm saying, that they said they were practicing Judaism, you know what I'm saying, all the way on down to the language. So my Captain Zark knows a little bit more about the map than I, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you watch the video, I'm sure it was him mentioning it, you know what I'm saying? Because my studies is more so inside of South Central North America. But from what I have looked inside there, you know what I'm saying, it would be based off of, you know what I'm saying, even if, do you know who the actual author of that map is?
Yeah, so there's a couple different versions of it. The version I couldn't really clearly see the one that was in the video you posted, but I have talked to a couple brothers from the ISUPK, and the map that was sent to me was specifically from a French cartographer. So that's why you get the actual spelling Juda, but historically different Europeans spelled they were trying to translate an African name. And you know how Europeans always, they mess up African names and words. They can't pronounce it. So they spell it however it's easier for them to pronounce. So each of these groups, English, they spelled it they spelled it WHYDA. The French spelled it JUDA. The Portuguese spelled it JAIDA. Basically what they were trying to do was write down on a map the name of that actual kingdom, and that kingdom was actually called the Huita people, and they had an established kingdom, and they actually ran that port. So that's why I was just a little confused, because a lot of people see that map and then they see JUDA on that map, and a lot of folks point to that and say, see, they knew that these people were Jews because it's on the map, and that's not true, because that word is just a translation.
Cap, you on the line?
Yeah, you gonna.
Okay, can you hear Cap?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Hey, Shalom.
I think I think people that have no identity find it very hard to believe how this transpires. So, when the Israelites fled into Africa, the tribes knew exactly who the Israelites were, and just like the Israelites knew those tribes. We don't know the tribes today. So I'm gonna give you a parallel before I explain on that. Are you familiar with when so-called slavery was free in the late 1800s, that black people from North Carolina went to Africa? Are you familiar with that piece of history?
Yeah, I remember they tried to establish a settlement predominantly in Sierra Leone as well too. Yeah,
and
what happened over there?
And what happened when they went over there? They went to war, right?
Not necessarily, because they still have Creole people in that land today.
Okay, so what I would suggest you do is just do a little bit of history on that, because when the black people went back over there, because the African tribes was still selling Israelites, when they went back over there, they went to war, and they stayed in war. Like the blacks that came from America constantly was at war, to where they did a public beheading in the 80s of the blacks so that they could take the regime back. Why is that important? You can have on a map land of Judah. You can have on a map whatever you want. But they didn't just grab random people. It wasn't a civil war like
When you say
internal.
they, are you talking about the buyers or the sellers?
The buyers, the white man never went into the continent to grab
Right.
slaves.
Exactly. Right.
Right. But that's my point. So when the Africans were selling Israelites, they wasn't selling their own people. They were selling us that migrated into those lands. And so of course we're the perfect enemy to sell to the white man. And so
Well, the kingdom of Huida and actually Benin, they actually have records. That's why Benin is kind of offering like free citizenship to Americans now, is because
that's cat.
they actually
You believe
have
that?
records. Say that again.
I said, you believe that?
No, they actually. I know people who actually went over there and got their citizenship from Benin. Like Benin is trying to
Yeah.
trying to
How
make
many
amends
people?
because of what they did. But
How many
the
people? How
the
many
actual
people?
kingdom of Huida,
How many?
they
How many
when they
people?
ran out of captives to sell to the Europeans, they would actually sell their own people. Even the king
But how many
himself is
people?
documented actually selling some of his concubines. So they did sell their own people, and they
No,
worked with local
I would
tribes to
suggest
actually
you look
capture
at it.
those.
Yeah, I would suggest you delve into tribal warfare a little bit more deeply, just like African tribes going to war with other African tribes right now. So when the
Right?
Israelites,
Yeah. No, I
right?
agree with that. Yeah.
So it's tribe against tribe.
Right.
So it's not like they was enslaving their own; they was enslaving us because we were their enemies. That's why a majority of us, come from the west coast of Africa because of that. So that's
Well,
just
so I just want to push back on that, because if you have when you say majority of Black Americans coming from that place, what you're
mhm.
describing is a large inhabitant of so-called Israelites in one land area, and you would have a lot of records of of these people being in one area, not necessarily just hearsay. So I understand
And
everything
when
that
you
you're saying.
say
There's more
records,
evidence than that. So I just wanted to
when you say records, what do you mean by records?
meaning that there would be large documentation of a large group of people who are all practicing the same, say, religion or speaking the same language.
But you
And
can't say. But this the thing about when we say Israelites, like we believe black people in America are Israelites. What do they follow?
you mean like just
What do
being
they follow?
American?
Like what are you? You a so-called black man?
Correct.
What do you believe in?
What do you mean? What do I believe in? As far as
What's your
what?
spirituality?
I believe in Christ.
So you believe that you're an Israelite?
No, I do not.
Did you celebrate Christmas today?
I hung out with my family.
Did you celebrate Christmas, man?
I don't know what you mean by celebrate.
Did you go over to your family's house for Christmas?
I went to my family's house today. Yes.
That's yeah. You represent what they was doing in Africa. That's why we went in slavery.
Okay.
If we was actually keeping the commandments, we wouldn't be in bondage. So you're gonna have pockets of Israelites that would have been keeping the commandments, but then you would also would have had Israelites that would have breaking the commandments. That's what the scriptures talk about. The
Right.
scriptures talk about if we obey the commandments, we be blessed. If we disobey the commandments, we be punished. That's why
Right.
the reason why we fled into Africa is because we were following after the Romans. We persecuted Christ. Once we persecuted Christ, Rome fell 70 AD. We scattered into Africa. We scattered in Europe. We scattered all over.
Don't you think the Arabs would have got you first?
There's a history of the Arab
Because
sub-Saharan.
the Arab slave trade was 3 times longer than the transatlantic slave
Right.
trade, and it came prior to the transatlantic slave trade, and it
That's
was
yeah. There's no
predominantly
denying.
in
Yeah,
that
there's no
area.
denying. Yeah,
So
that's
I'm
me
just
and the
trying to figure
Arabs
out, how
too.
do we get such a large amount of Israelites
So you
in West
think that?
Africa around
So
that time to be able to
so
number
you
one,
think that
locate them and transport them to
so
America?
who do you think came over here on the slave ships?
There was a lot of different tribes. There was a lot of Native Africans that came over here on slave ships.
I
Number
don't I
one,
don't know of that.
it's a historical fact that was one of the reasons why they were able to um, what do you call it, subdue and remove the culture of a lot of Native Africans, because they mixed tribal groups together and they couldn't speak the
That's
same
not
language.
that ain't how like you being too kind to the white man. That's
No, no,
not
no.
how
What
they
I'm
got.
saying is,
That's not
if
how
you
they got
get
rid of.
if you get
One
one
second.
tribal group
One
from
one
another
second.
tribal group and they don't speak the same
One
language, they
second,
can't
baby.
communicate. And that was like
One,
a rule that they held. But
one second. You
again, I
can't
don't
get
want to go
if
too deep on that. I just wanted to I don't want to take up too much time. I just wanted to address the map issue. If we can kind of
there's
go
no
back to
map
that.
issue. Yeah,
Um,
there's no. I don't see it. I don't see it as a map issue. It's an identifier marker. It's no different than We
Right.
identify
But what I'm
black. Let
saying
me
is what
finish.
you
Let me
guys are
finish,
saying. Yeah, I'm
dude.
sorry. Go ahead.
Thank
My
you.
bad.
It's no different than when we say blacks are the Negroes in America. That don't mean every black person in America is an Israelite.
Right.
Like we use common examples, like Bob Marley is not an Israelite. Lenny Kravitz, not an Israelite. So we don't go by your complexion. It's
Right.
just a general locale for where we were at. You can
Right.
also see Israelite names on some of the slave ships when you talk about records where they would have Yah at the end of their names. You can also find records of that as well. So when you say that there's no records, I would have to disagree with you because you can actually find a website that does carry the names of some of the slaves, and you'll see that Yah is at the end of their names also.
Right. Okay. Well, so going back to the map, like I said, I
Mm,
don't know. I don't want to.
mm,
I don't want to assume that that's how you guys use the map. But the issue that I wanted to press was that the fact that it says Judah on the map has no relation to the tribe of Judah. It's actually a transliteration
That's
of the
your
kingdom
opinion,
of Wida.
right? That's just your opinion.
No, that's
That's
not
why I
my
said it's
opinion. That's a
more.
fact. That king
That's not
that
a
if you go to
what
Benin,
I'm saying by
if
that.
you go to
What I'm saying,
Benin, they still have the records there. Like there's
no
still a city
problem.
named Ouida
Then
in
why are
Benin.
there names of Israelite? Why are there names of slaves with Yah on the end of their name?
My daughter has Yah on the end of her name. Similarity doesn't mean genealogy or
Not,
ancestry.
that's such a coon ass response right there.
No, I'm
I'm
just
asking
saying.
during the time of slavery, when it's fresh, their names had Yah on the end of it. That's
Uh-huh.
our culture.
Right.
So why would they have Yah on the end of their names?
So like the kingdom of Ouida, you're asking why
I'm
they
not
got
asking
Yah at
about
the
the
end of their
kingdom.
name?
I'm not asking about. I'm asking about on. You said on records.
Right. Yeah.
On the records, you said there's no records. On the records, the names of slaves have Yah at the end of their names.
Right.
So why do they have Yah at the end of their names? That's an Israelite custom to have
No,
Yah
I
at the
I,
end of
I
their name.
understand that. I can't answer that question. I haven't seen
No
the
sweat.
records.
I
The only thing that I
understand.
wanted to address was what I could see. The,
Well,
the
the reason
thing the
why I
thing that
say
I
that,
could see
no problem.
was
The reason why I
the
say that is
yeah.
because we don't look at just one piece of evidence. Because
No,
history is
I
very
understand. I
history.
just wanted
History
to
is
address that
very
one piece of
no
evidence. That's
problem.
all.
No
That's the
problem.
only
But
like
history,
yeah, go ahead.
you gotta be quiet 1 second. History is, how does I tell you? I'm not. I used to be a big fan of history, the biggest fan. Kadazar came in and he took away my whole desire of history. Now I let him do history because what I learned in history is that you can find any information to make your claim or to make your point. So, like for example, when you just stopped at the map, we don't just stop at the map. The map is not enough for us. I agree with you, but if I can go into the records and then see the records of the names of slaves, and they have the name Yah at the end of it, and that's our culture. If I can know that we got family in us, we got brothers in our school who family traces back to slavery, and they kept that culture of being an Israelite. So it's more than just one piece of evidence. The Bible, of course, will always be 100% primary source. History would just have to back up the Bible in that
Right,
sense. You
right. And,
understand?
and I guess the only reason why I pressed the map is because like I don't want to get into a theological debate with you guys. We could debate. I've watched a lot of your debates, Cap. You know what I'm saying? So we could debate till we blue in the face. But when you make claims that go into the realm of objective history, objective reality, like a map, like to say that this map means this when it actually means that, that's something that's like not necessarily theological. That's just a fact. And the history on that map, I did the
But
history
that's
on
a
the map.
fact based on, but see, that's the thing. When you say
Yeah.
that's a fact based on whichever historian says it's a fact. That's why I said history, you know, history,
But we could say the
even
same thing about you guys and your historian.
I agree. I just
Yeah.
said the Bible is the only thing that's a primary.
Right.
History, that's why the first thing I said, when it comes to history, anybody can find something in history to validate their point. I'll use a
Right.
common example. Right now, in history, in our schools, they're teaching that slavery did not happen. 60 years from now, they'll say, when it says all men are created equal, that included us, we were never slaves.
Hmm.
And the only people that would know that information is those that would keep that history. And then as they get rid of it in the books, how would we prove that there was a transatlantic slave trade? You know, they call it the transatlantic migration. That's how they teach it. So it's
Hmm.
very easy to get rid of history. What is
Right.
not easy to get rid of is the Bible. So when we look at Deuteronomy 28 and 68, that can only apply to the Israelites because the Israelites was told what would happen to them. The Israelites was told the condition that they would be in. And there's no answer for our captivity except the Bible. So when I go to the Bible, there's nothing that can trump that. I
Right,
don't really have to use that map. I don't have to use West Africa. I don't have to use anything. I can just use the Bible. And
right,
then
right.
that would be enough.
And like I said, and I appreciate that. I didn't want to get into just like I said, a theological debate on scripture. I just wanted to address that point of the map, because I was shown that map at least a few times, and I knew from the jump, just by reading the map, I'm just like, okay, that map is referring to an actual kingdom that those people still exist today, and their actual language. It's comes from a completely different family. It's not a Semitic language. Even the name of the place is not a Semitic language. However, that the name of the place of that kingdom was translated into what looks like Judah, and it was only translated by one set of Europeans. But if you actually
You know
research
what?
that map,
Mhm.
that name of that kingdom was actually translated in different ways by different groups of people. So you
And
can
you know
kind of
why it was
see like
translated different?
yeah,
You know why it was translated different? So when
because
I
people
went to
hear different things. They
I'm gonna
translate
say,
what they hear it.
no, not even just that. When when you go over, like when I went to Israel, right, and I start talking to so I went to Demona. They was like, why do you talk about Africans? I said, because we not Hamites. And they said, we know. I said, well, that's what I'm talking about. So I started meeting actual Israelites that lived in Africa, right? And so what I find is that the reason why people have difference of opinion is because in the west coast of Africa, like in Ghana, you might see people that are going to hold to the actual traditions of Ghana. And then you're going to have the people that are Israelites in Ghana that hold to the traditions of being an Israelite. So the language and conversations are always going to be different based on who you talk to. So the Israelites that are in Ghana is going to say, yeah, this is where the Israelites, this is where we migrated to. The Ghanaian people are going to say, nah, we the Ghanaian people, we never followed that. So it's going to always be who you talk to. That's what it's going to be when you have those conversations. So you got to make sure when you're talking, you ask the right questions. You know the audience that you're talking to. That's how you actually have that conversation.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I appreciate that. I just wanted to, like I said, I just wanted to push back on the title and the
Hmm.
names, the place names that were on that map. Obviously, like you said,
Hmm.
one piece of evidence doesn't necessarily
Definitely, it
discredit
can't.
the whole diaspora. I get that. It's just from what I was presented, a lot of weight was placed on a weak link, and the weak link was that map says Judah.
Nah, if you
Therefore,
ever watched
these
our
were the
12
people
tribe,
of Judah
yeah,
that was here.
if you ever watched our 12 tribe chart, I don't think we put a lot of weight in the map. We
Yeah.
talk about the
Well,
map.
would you agree that the name Judah doesn't refer to the tribe of Judah on that map?
I would say that whoever you're talking to from that region would give you a different answer. That's what I would say. I would say the Jews that was there would say this is their land. I would say the people that was living in the land prior to the Judites coming there would say that was their land.
But I'm saying, I mean, what
No
about
different
the
than in
people who
America.
actually made
In,
the
Amer-
map?
in
We know
America
what they
right
were
now,
putting on the map.
in America right now, do they get angry over Columbus Day?
Yeah, I think so.
Why do they get angry over Columbus Day?
Some people want to get rid of it. They don't like Columbus. They say he ain't discovered nothing.
No, that ain't why. Because the indigenous people over here know that this is their land.
Right.
But historically, it's treated as it's somebody else's land. And because they're the victors, that's why they're able to say this is their land. So when they say America, and this what y'all have to understand when you're looking at mapping, when you're looking at land, when you're talking about conversations that date back hundreds of years. If you go back to that time frame, those different tribes knew who each tribe was. Today, we don't know who we are. Just like today, when people think of America, they don't think of the native indigenous people. When they think of the Puerto Ricans, they don't think of Taino Indians. When they think of Mexicans, they don't think of the actual Mexicans that own or lived in the land. They think of the people that occupy it today.
Right.
So you got to kind of put yourself back in that time zone. That's what we do in ISBK. We're able to understand that back then they knew exactly who they were selling. They knew who they were selling. They knew why they were selling. And even when blacks came back to Africa to live amongst the people that they said they were,
Hmm.
they still did not accept them because they was a different tribe, because they were still selling Israelites.
Well, I guess
And
I
then
would disagree with that because they got a whole town dedicated to them. It's called Freetown. They got a whole city like that they gave to those people, and they speak Creole from like
that could be
Louisiana,
in that
like today.
one
Like those
city,
people still
but
exist.
one city don't take away if you just look that up in the 1860s. I did a debate.
Yeah, no,
Brother.
I know that happened, but we're talking about
No,
scale.
because you said you didn't know it when I first mentioned it.
No. What I'm saying is,
You said you
I'm
didn't
sure.
know it
Okay, I
when I
take that
first
back. I
mentioned
take
it.
that back. What I'm saying is,
You
I'm
said
sure
wait
that
one
conflicts
second. You
happen.
can't do that. You can't do that. You said you didn't know that history, so don't act like you know about it now. There's
No, I'm
nothing
saying I
wrong with
didn't know
not.
that situation, but I'm not
That
saying that
that
it didn't
okay? You
happen. I'm sure
don't
it did.
reword. Don't listen.
Yeah.
Don't reword situation with history.
Okay.
You said you didn't know that history. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with not knowing. It's not that deep. This is not a gotcha moment. This is a
Right.
conversation two brothers having. And
All
so
right.
you didn't know that piece of history. And in that piece of history, when black people went back to Africa, because Africans were still selling us, when we went back to Africa, we had civil war with them where we was killing them, they was killing us. And in the 80s, they publicly beheaded us because there was always a difference between us and them. Even to this day, Africa, I just put a video on my page where this African is saying like, what is Pan African? Because Africans do not believe that African shit. Most
Yeah,
Africans,
I saw that video. I don't believe in Pan Africanism either.
yeah, like
There
most
was never a
Africans.
united Africa, and I don't think there ever
Thank
will be.
you, thank you. So when we say we African or something like that, it's like the dumbest thing ever. But
Yeah,
Kadazai,
no,
I'm under the weather.
I think it's silly too. But okay, so
No sweat.
would you also say that, like I said, and I concede to your point, like you said, you brought me a piece of information that I didn't know. But I felt like we not nobody's addressed the claim or that I'm
No, we
making.
disagree.
Y-
No, you can't say we
So are
didn't
you saying
address.
you
We
disagree
disagree.
that the name Judah
If I could say one
isn't
thing.
a transliteration of the kingdom of Ouida that is known
Yeah, we
as
disagree on that.
Benin?
So even
Why do we disagree on that?
so,
Because you can look that up now.
even if we disagree with it, right? That doesn't negate that there's evidence of the people in this region. You understand, which I brought up earlier.
Yeah. I just want to negate that piece of
Writings.
evidence. That's all.
No. You can do that, but that's why I asked you earlier who wrote that map. You know what I'm saying?
You guys put the map up.
No,
But we
okay.
didn't write the map, nigga. Did he
What I'm
just say
saying
No,
is,
that?
I understand
it's
that,
a
but if
real.
you're going to use a
When you
map, you
say
need
we
to
put
know
the
the
map
history
up,
of the
where
map.
we put the map up at?
So I actually so I'm in video production,
I'm sorry,
right? So I
Kadazai. My
downloaded
bad.
all
My bad,
13
Kadazai.
No
of the
sweat, no sweat.
videos. I downloaded all 13 of the videos that was presented on the 12 tribes, and then I put them in my system, and I got a transcript. So I got word for word of everything that was presented in those videos,
This
and I
is
went to go fact check.
Kadazai's. This is Kadazai's.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I because I don't want to just come on here and just start spitting shit out of my ass. So I wanted to make sure I
So
knew what
who
I was
wrote the
talking about.
map?
Right? It depends on which map you're putting out, but any
The
map that
map you
has
talking about? Who wrote the map? Because we didn't write the map.
exactly, but you use the map as a piece of
Who wrote the
evidence.
map, man?
Europeans.
Jesus Christ.
So all right, I've been trying to explain this since you got on, and then Cap got on, and you know what I'm saying. But I'm gonna just give you an example, right? At Louisiana State University, the ships that came from Judah, this area, you understand, publicly and at largely known as Judah, and it talks about these slave ships, and it has a document of slave ships which left from this area. So what I'm saying is, regardless of like your argument is, you're trying to separate the indigenous people and the people who actually lived in that land and who were a part of that.
No. That's not what I'm doing. Can I clarify?
That's exactly because that.
That's not my point.
On.
Okay.
This is what you did in the beginning. You said that these people had a kingdom. They were in charge of the slave trade inside of that region or a part of it. You know what I'm saying? And as a result, they had tribes that they were enslaving. And when that was depleted, they went into other tribes. This is what you stated.
No, I said they went into their own tribe.
We don't have a problem.
Right.
You understand? Okay, but the initial part I'm correct on. So we don't have a problem with you separating the people who's inside that region from Judah. We're saying that the people that they initially enslaved and who left those ports are Israelites, and there's anthropology, history, and archaeology to prove it. So what you're saying, right? even for argument's sake, regardless of what the people of that area called themselves, doesn't negate Judites coming from this port. And there's a reason as to why that name would come up and people identified it. And in particular, because the people who are in charge of the slave trade are Christians. So if when they're reading the Bible and they're looking at these people and coming with this discoveries, what else do you think that they would put on the map based off of the fact of their Christian paradigm?
Okay, so I agree. I agree with everything you just said, and I just want to clarify what my initial point is. My point isn't necessarily to separate the people. My point was, the main point of that map is that the word Judah that's written on the map, Juda, is a transliteration of the actual name of the kingdom, which is Hoida. So what I'm trying to say is because that name Judah is on the map, it's not explaining Israelites. It's explaining the kingdom of Huida because it's a transliteration. Now, if you're saying that you disagree that that's a transliteration of the actual name of the people group, then that's the disagreement. But I'm not disagreeing with you saying that, about the separations of the people. All I'm saying is, if you're showing people a map that says Judah and you're telling people it says Judah because it's the tribe of Judah from the Israel, I'm saying that's false because it's a transliteration of the actual name of the kingdom, which is Hoida.
And if it was or it wasn't, that would be an awfully big coincidence if those people that they sold were actually Jews, would it not?
I agree. It would be an awfully great coincidence.
Of all the mistransliterations that there could be, I mean, that's an awfully close one, ain't it?
Here's the thing, Cap. Only one European country actually translated it as Judah. Only one. All the other European countries translated it as something else.
Okay, and
the Portuguese translated as something else. The English translated it as something else. Only the French translated it as Juda.
Which would make even more sense, you know what I'm saying, as to Louisiana being a French colony, why I have a Louisiana report of them calling it Judah. But nonetheless, it would still be an awfully big coincidence.
I wouldn't say that because the actual
I would.
The actual spell that so if you look up the country of Benin right now, they have a city that's called Ouida, Ouida. That's not far off from Judah. That's not far off. So if you can't understand the language of these people you dealing with, like these Europeans always messing up African names and words, they're gonna write down what it sounds like to them. And if you French, you're going to write down what it sounds like to you in your language. If you Portuguese, you're going to write down what it sounds like in your language. And we have copies of these maps. If you look it up, everybody spelled it differently. The English spelled it Whydah. That's nothing like Juda. Nothing like it. So we have to explain. We have what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, there is far more evidence to suggest that Judah on that map is a transliteration of the actual kingdom of that place and not the name of Israelites.
And it still wouldn't negate who these people actually were.
I understand. I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is we can't use that map to say that, oh, the map says Judah, so this is Judah from Israel. We can't say that.
But see, what you're doing is you picking and choosing. You said one person say this, one person say this, one person say this. So you're picking one to make.
I'm saying take them all.
Stop talking.
Take them all.
No, you're not, because you said the French say Judah, the other two say no. Right? That's what you said, right?
No. I'm saying out of 5 countries that has translated the name of that kingdom,
Judah,
they all use different spellings.
Right. They all use different spellings. And so that's how you make your absolute conclusion. And if we in ISBK made our absolute conclusion based on that one source, then you might have a point. But you don't have a point.
No, I'm not trying to negate the fact that you guys are saying Israelites came from West Africa.
This is what I mean about history. You got 5 countries. They all translated different. The Bible does not translate Deuteronomy 28 and 68 any different, does it?
I'm not debating the Bible.
Man.
No, it does not.
Thank you. So, to explain how we got over here in slavery can be first answered in Deuteronomy 28 and 68. And then we can find in parts of history how we have oral tradition. Sometimes we have written records. You have written records.
That's not how you do history, Cap, man. You're starting with the conclusion and then you're going to find evidence to support your conclusion.
You have to be what I said. Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is all I need.
I know, but what I'm saying
I
is
don't
you're
think
starting with your
there is nothing
conclusion, and
there is
then you're
nothing
going
that
to
you're
find
saying.
evidence to lead
But
you
what you
to
just
support that
said,
conclusion.
the 5 countries don't even agree, correct?
Because they speak different languages.
Answer the question. Do they agree, yes or no?
Yes, they agree.
They
They
do
know
not
who that
agree.
kingdom was.
They do not agree. So
That's
when I look
false.
at this,
That's cat. Cat. Come on now. That's
Louisiana
cat.
State, when I look at Louisiana State University, the ships that came from Judah, that's what they say. There was a publication written at Louisiana State University titled Creole New Orleans,
What
Race
French
and
ship? Was it a French
Americanization.
ship?
Once again, it says from Judah. This is not us making it.
I'm saying,
This
was
is
it a
all you
French
gotta do is
ship?
be quiet because you never heard this before in your life.
You
You
never
never
heard about the kingdom of Wida.
you never heard. Yes, I have. That's the difference. But the difference between you and I, this is what you did. You was gonna call in here and just bring up the land of Judah and just thought you had a point. You didn't think that we would have another record that says Louisiana State University also says that the ships that came from Judah. You never
Right.
heard that in your life.
Because that's what the
Have
French
you
called
ever
the
answer
place.
the question? Have you ever heard that in your life?
No.
Thank you. So you have not studied. That what you're showing on this panel is that all you are is a talker. You're just a talker. You're not
Cap,
stop.
what
All
I'm
you gotta do
saying
is just be
is,
quiet. No,
Cap, what I'm saying is
you can't say anything because you're not studied. I needed
you're
this kind of guy because
translating, you're translating,
I think
got
my
it.
flu, I think my flu is leaving my brain
you've
as I talk. The
translated,
more
but
I
what I'm
talk,
saying,
I can
Cap,
hear the sweat. I can
Cap,
feel
you're
the
ignoring
sweat
the
coming
translation.
out.
Why you
No, I'm
not
not.
addressing the
No, I'm not.
translation
I'm
error?
not ignoring anything. You're
But
ignorant
you
though.
are ignoring the
One second.
translation.
You're
You
ignorant
guys
though.
aren't. You
You're
haven't
ignorant
talked
though
about
because
the
what
you
you have
haven't
to do.
talked
What? Hey,
about the
what's your
native
name?
people.
What's your name? What's
You
your
haven't
name?
talked about the native
What's your
people.
name? What's your
My name
name?
is Cliff.
Cliff. What you have to do, right? If you're going to challenge on any subject that ISBK teaches, right? Any subject, it could be Jesus is God, Christmas, whatever it may be. You should try studying every angle that we use when it comes to the 12 tribe chart. And this is why we don't debate a lot of people
I'm
on
not
the
trying to
12.
discredit
All
the
you gotta
12
do is
tribe
just
chart.
all you gotta do is just let me finish. This is why we don't debate a lot of people on it because you're showing that you haven't even studied it. Because if this was actually a real
I got
live
a whole
debate,
transcript of all 13
all you got to do
videos.
is
True
just be
or false?
quiet. But now with all that transcripts that you got, you never heard that Louisiana State University has that the ships came from Judah. With all the transcripts that you got, but guess who has it? ICPK has that
But
information.
what I'm trying to
So
say is,
wait,
Cap,
slow,
is
slow
you not
down. So what that
understanding where they
means,
got that word from. I'm explaining to you how
is
they
that
got the
we're
word
more
Judah.
studied than you.
Cap, what I'm trying to say is,
We're
Cap,
more
Cap,
studied. No,
Cap,
don't stop
Cap.
saying cat. Stop. You just got to be quiet, brother.
But you're
What
because what you're trying to do is
have
you're
to
trying
be
to
quiet.
steamroll my point now. You're
You
trying to
have to be
steamroll my point.
quiet. Your
You're trying to
only point.
steamroll my point
Here's
though.
what your point is. Here's what your
My
point is.
point is
Here, let me say your point
you're
so you
not
can know that I'm
understanding
listening
how
to
they
you, so
got
I
the
can show
name.
you how stupid your point is.
All right, go
Your
ahead.
point is that when it says land of Judah or Weda or Wyota or whatever it is,
Right,
that kingdom existed before they came and the kingdom existed afterwards. That's your
right,
point. That's your
right,
point, right?
right.
That's not our point. Our point is that the Israelites was in the west coast of Africa.
I'm not
That
disagreeing
we
with that.
migrated. Then what's the argument here? There's no
The
argument.
argument is
Thank you.
you're
Thank
saying
you.
that the
I
ships
appreciate
say
it.
Judah.
What I would suggest you do,
You're saying the ships say
there's
Judah.
3 things that
What
you
I'm
did
trying
not
to
know.
say is
There's three
the
things
word
that you did not
Judah
know.
is a false
Listen,
translation of the
Cliff,
actual kingdom of the place.
there's 3 things that you did not know in this small, short conversation. You didn't know the history of black people going back to Africa. Let me
You didn't know about
finish.
the translation
Let
of the
me
word,
finish.
Cap.
Let me finish. I did know about the translation of the
Well,
word. I never said I
how come
didn't
y'all
know
not
it.
addressing
But
it?
let me finish.
How come you're not
You
addressing it?
3 things you did not know.
Cap, you're
You
not
did not know
addressing the
the
name of the
history. And
kingdom.
when you start over talking, that's when you know you're in your feelings. 3 things you did not know. You did not know the history of black people going back to Africa and having civil war. You did not
That's
know that.
irrelevant to my
You
point.
did not know. You did
That's
not
irrelevant
know
to my
that
point.
there's names of slaves that had Yah on the end of their name
That's
on record.
irrelevant to my
You
point.
did not know that. It's relevant to that Israelites was
I'm
in the
not
west coast of
denying
Africa.
that Israelites may have been moved
And
from
you
West
did not
Africa.
know
I'm not
that the
denying that.
Louisiana State University has a record that the ships came from Judah. So what
Why
I
did
would
they name the
suggest you
ship
do,
Judah? Why did
here's
they
what
name the place
here's
Judah?
here's
That's what I'm asking you.
what I would suggest you to do.
Because of that French map.
What you should do is just do, I don't know, like some better research or
Cap,
something
you
like.
can Google that map y'all use and
I don't
find
have to
out why
Google it.
they named that place Judah.
I don't have
Only
to
the
Google
French
it.
did that.
It
Only
doesn't.
the French did that.
I
So you're
don't
choosing
now.
to only go
So
with
let me ask you a
evidence to
question.
support your
Let me ask you a
conclusion.
question.
You're
This
ignoring the
totally
English ships. You're
this
ignoring the
totally off
Portuguese
topic.
ships.
This totally off topic. Why was the Bible preserved the way that it was?
Cap, I'm trying to
It's
talk
totally
about.
off subject.
I'm
I'm
trying to
trying to
stay on
get you to
topic here.
understand.
I'm trying to stay on topic.
This is on topic.
I'm trying to talk. I'm saying the name Judah on those maps is referring to the kingdom of Ouida. And I haven't heard anybody address whether or not that's true or false.
I did address it.
So is it true or is it false?
Is what true or false? I answered again.
Is Judah on those French maps a transliteration of the actual native people,
Yes.
Ouida?
No. It's talking about the Israelites that were the Jews in that land. That's what it's talking about.
And is that your opinion?
No, that's the fact.
Okay.
And I
So
based
all
that
I'm
on.
saying,
And again,
all
let me
right, all right.
finish.
So
Let me finish. See, you see how you're still talking? I'm trying to finish.
Go ahead.
And I based that on the names of slaves. You asked for records. There's names of slaves that have Israelite names. That's our culture.
You're
So
calling them Israelite names because they
once
sound
again, I'm not
similar.
calling them anything. We're the only ones that have Yah. See, you want to fight.
That's
Once
not
again,
true. You're not the only one that has Yah. I just told you that kingdom was named with Yah at the end of their name.
No, I don't know about that. But what I
Go
do
look
know,
it up. See, and then see, there we go. There we
what I
go.
do
I
know is
presented
that
some
the Israelites
information that
had
you didn't
Yah
know.
at the end of that. What I do know,
I presented you
is
some
that
information that you
you
didn't
did
know,
not
Cap.
present any information.
You
that
just said you
debunks-
didn't know that.
I didn't know what.
You just said, "Oh, I don't know about that."
No, when I'm being facetious when I say that. That's the difference between you and I.
Oh,
I'm
so
being facetious.
am I the only one being respectable? Is that it?
Yeah, I'm not respecting you though.
Okay, I appreciate. I appreciate you respecting me by responding to me. But all I'm saying, I want to
Yeah, I
keep
am
it on topic.
responding to you, but I don't respect you because
I want
I
to keep
think
it on
that
topic.
because the reason why I don't respect you because I don't think that there's any evidence that we could present to you that would tell you. Like we just presented
Likewise,
you. We presented you. Then
there's
what's the point
nothing
of
anybody could present
there's
to y'all
nothing. There's
to
nothing. No.
discredit y'all.
That's
But
the
I'm not trying to
difference.
do that.
That's the
I'm not
difference.
trying to attack.
If you had actual evidence, we would believe it. But you haven't presented anything that would make me say anything.
How do I
But yet,
do that?
I gave you.
How do I present my evidence? I don't know how I could do that. Because I could send you a link where one of your brothers from the ISUPK sent me a link to where you could actually purchase that map. And I went on that link. And if you would just read on that link, it tells you what they were trying to translate. They were trying to translate the name of that local kingdom.
Right. And so it's your position that Jews were not in Africa?
No, that's not what I'm arguing here. That's not
Then
what I'm
what's the
saying.
argument here?
What I'm saying is you can't use that map as evidence.
I can use that map.
Because that map does not describe the kingdom of Israel. It describes a completely different kingdom.
I can absolutely use that map because the tribes of Africans knew exactly who they were selling, and that's us.
But that's not. But that map does not reflect the name of those tribes.
Here's how spiritual it is. They've been separated from us since that time. They have not joined to us.
We getting off topic.
We keep that is on topic.
My topic is
you keep saying that that's not on topic.
I'm in communication.
That sounds ignorant.
I'm in communication.
I don't need to. If you're in communication, you should shut your mouth.
I study language.
You should just shut your mouth.
So that's all I want to talk about.
It is on topic. It is on topic because if the Jews was in Africa and we became kings in Africa, we became rulers in Africa. There was war with tribes when we first migrated into that. There was wars with tribes when we went back there. So when it came time for slavery, they knew exactly who they were selling. So the Jews were in Africa, and when the white man came, the Africans said, these are the people that we will sell. So when you say it's not on topic, for you it's not on topic because all you want to talk about is the map. For us,
yeah, that's just the point I'm arguing here. I ain't trying to argue.
We don't have to go any further because when we talk, because we use more than just the map. That's why we're able to expound further than that, and you can't.
Right.
That's
but
why
that's
when I talk,
I'm not arguing with you on that.
Listening is an art. Listening is an art.
I'm not arguing with you on that.
Listening is an art.
My position is not that Israelites didn't come from the west coast of Africa.
Listening is an art. And what I mean by listening is listening.
But you're not listening, Cap. You're not following your own.
Hey, Kadazar, can you mute him? Thank you. Listening is an art because you can't talk about nothing but the map. That's why that's all you want to talk about. For all the study that you say you got, when I bring up other sources, you can't address it because you don't know it. When I brought up the names, all you can say is, well, people got names. When I bring up the Louisiana State thing, all you can say is, I never read that. The French got their own translation. So that's why to you, it's like we're getting off subject. But for us, it's not one piece of evidence. It's multiple pieces of evidence that we piece together to identify who the tribes of Israel are today. So with that said, I don't think we need to go further unless you want to say something else, Kadazai.
Nah, it's like I said, he not understanding the point. You know what I'm saying? And there's like I explained to him from the beginning. You got records from the 17th and 18th century of Portuguese and English slave traders collectively who use terms like Negroes of Judah and people of Judah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm talking about in the same region. So I don't even understand like what the major point of contention is outside of you wanting to argue about transliteration.
All right,
my bad. Now, if we have time,
we don't have no more time, man. It was nice having you on the show. We appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, Kadazai, can I go now?
Yeah, sure.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Hear you, Kadazai.
Check. Can you hear me? Hello?
Kadazai, I can't hear you.
Can you
got my head sweating. Kadazai, did you mute your mic, man?
Check. Can you hear me?
Kadazai, don't tell me you muted your mic on purpose so I can't.
I can hear him just fine.
So now you're gonna try to say I gotta stay on the show.
I don't know.
Staying on the show.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Let me see.
You can't hear either of us, I don't think.
Kadazai still can't hear you. Can y'all hear Kadazai?
You can hear me though?
Yeah, let me know if y'all can hear Kadazai.
Yeah, we can all hear each other. It's just that Captain Zaria can't hear us.
Let me call him.
I'm going to drop off, man.
Do me a favor. Take the show for a second. I'm going to call him.
Kind of. So to recap, that guy didn't know what he was talking about. I jumped in the middle of it, so I just heard him getting, slice and dice. The bottom line is we had tons of evidence to show that Israelites migrated into Africa, existed in Africa, and then were sold by the Africans. There was a clear distinction made. That's part of the prophecies that we believe in. And it's not limited to one piece of evidence. It's not limited to this map. It's not limited to a translation of a word. It's all over the place. Everything's Wildcat. Well, now I can't hear you. Hold on, you muted.
You hear me now?
There you go.
Cliff, could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, all right. So you said you had another question about South America?
Yeah, and this one ain't in too depth, so maybe you can teach me more than I could talk. But it's my understanding that native tribes like the Olmecs, they were in South America at least 700 to 1,000 years prior to the Israelite diaspora. So how do you account for those people if I recall correctly, you mentioned a roughly 500 year BC transatlantic migration from the Israelite diaspora into South America, and then they moved upward, because I know you reject the Bering Strait theory. But how do you just explain those tribes that were already there at least 1,000 years? The Olmecs reached the height of their civilization when the Israelites were just leaving Egypt.
Okay, that narrative that you have usually comes from people who believes that the Olmecs are an African civilization. You know what I'm saying? Which is a major misappropriation of the actual culture. You could actually go and look up the studies of sister civilization, not mother conversation, which actually changes the entire date and opens up trade routes, you know what I'm saying, between the two. So what I would say is I would look at the other side of the argument and the other side of the paradigm, because what I found is that you have certain scholars, they try to make everybody African. You know what I mean? And there's even books that I read, like I believe his name's J.A. Rogers, you know what I'm saying? Nature Knows No Color Line. I agree with some things in that book, but not everything is 100% accurate. You can't just make everybody in history black or African, whatever the case may be. So what I would actually look at is that there's records of them being closer to a sister civilization rather than an actual separate mother civilization. You know what I'm saying? Same thing, that the deeper that I actually dive into the Americas, the more that I actually find out that there was trade routes, you know what I'm saying, from the Caribbean with the Tainos and the Arawaks going all the way into the Yucatan and into South America. You know what I'm saying? And one of the major jump points that they also utilized was Florida. You know what I'm saying? Because there was Tainos in the southern, you know what I'm saying, tip of Florida. So that tells me a couple of things. That tells me that these different tribes and civilizations were way more closer and united than what they actually, you know what I'm saying, claim to say. And it also tells me that in order for you to have that level of trade and commerce, you have to have a common tongue. You have to have a way to communicate. And the more that I also dig and start to study, there's a lot of reports that came from Spain. Like, I'll give you two brief examples, right? Everybody today knows, you know what I'm saying, like the misnomer inside of the American school system of Columbus discovering America. There's lies like that that were perpetuated from the Spanish, who ended up becoming, you know what I'm saying, one of the most publicized records of them believing that they were gods, of them being, you know what I'm saying, involved in human sacrifice. And that's because Cortez would order the records to be written by this guy, Luis de Gomorra. And Gomorra would take those records and then slander the natives and make false reports and destroy their records and their history and put out all this misinformation. Because if you were able to negate their humanity, then you could civilize them through Christianity and enslave them. So the deeper that you dig, the more that you start to find that information, and you have to go to the other side of the argument. And if what I would do for you is look up sister civilization, not mother. And then that's where you'll find the other side of the coin for the Olmecs.
Okay. So how do we reconcile the dating issue?
Dating issue.
Basically, even if Israelites crossed the Atlantic to get to South America and they mixed in with the people that were there, how do we now today tell who's from Israel and who ain't, if there were already people living in those areas?
Well, it's the same capacity that we do today. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an admixture for every tribe. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because of colonization. So if we were to go to Hispaniola, one half of the island's conquered by the French, the other side by the Spanish. So one side speaks Spanish, the other side speaks Creole. So there's French that's mixed in. There's Spaniards that's mixed in amongst those that they brought over to the island and enslaved, and the actual indigenous population. You know what I'm saying? So when we say Puerto Ricans or Israelites, we're not talking about the ones from Spain. When we talk about Haitians being Israelites, we're not talking about the ones from France. So no matter which civilization you go to, or which country or which group, there's definitely going to be an admixture. The first thing of what it comes down to is narrowing down, are you indigenous or not? That's like the first line of questioning. And from what I found, anybody who actually comes from Spain and wasn't colonized, they know their history perfectly. They'll tell you which grandfather it was, what year that they came over, and how they came over. The people who were conquered don't know. You know what I'm saying? They usually tell me, I don't know. I got to go do a little bit of research. Or the only thing that they'll say is, oh, we're Los Indios. Or maybe they'll say, we're a Maroon. They'll say something along the terms that were utilized from people from those, you know what I'm saying, colonies. You get what I'm saying? So that would be the first thing that we would do in order to separate it. We would separate, you know what I'm saying, in that region, who we believe is indigenous or not. You know what I'm saying? Have that conversation. You know what I mean? Then the other part of it, because the truth is, right, we don't have a registry that goes back for like 1,000 years, 2,000 years. So in all honesty, there's another portion of it. It's like a spiritual litmus test. You know what I'm saying? Like once we talk to your father, once we talk to you from that region, I don't know if you have faith in the scriptures or not. I do. It says, my sheep hear my voice. It also says, try the spirit. Somebody ain't going to stick around with this doctrine based off of our paradigm. So the first thing that we eliminate, you understand, going back a couple of generations towards knowing if they're from that region. And then from there, it's, you know what I'm saying, how well that they conform.
Okay, no, I think I appreciate that. And this kind of ties on to it. And this probably could just be a quick answer. I noticed that you guys have listed the people from what we would call modern day Panama and modern day Colombia as two separate tribes of Israel. But prior to the 1900s, Panama was part of Colombia. How do you guys explain that?
So you can't look at the maps and borders, you know what I'm saying, as they are according to the countries that they are today, because the indigenous tribes had empires that stretched, you know what I'm saying, beyond the area that it encompassed. It's not like the Mayans were only in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's not like they were only in Central America. It's not like the Aztecs were only in Oaxaca. You know what I'm saying? So these people during this time period were spread out throughout the Americas, you know what I'm saying, and throughout all of these different lands, you know what I'm saying, and built extensive empires that had different borders and different boundaries before. So we're talking about the expanse of those people and those tribes who would be at large inside of those areas, not based off of their history of their separation, but more so who the indigenous people at large would be inside of that land.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Now, so how do we, or not we, but how do you draw the line of where one tribe ends and where one tribe begins? Like, and using that Panama and Colombia situation. So if prior to the 1900s, there was no border between, or legal border between Colombia and Panama, we would assume that those lands were inhabited by similar peoples. So how do you determine where one tribe ends in a land and where one tribe begins if we aren't using modern day mapping?
Well, the modern day mapping is to kind of just give you the region,
right?
But prior to that, you can go and look up the borders of what the indigenous empires were, you know what I'm saying, by their own words and by their own accounts. So you can go and you could look up, you know what I'm saying, whether it was the Incan Empire or, like I said, whether it was like the Mayan Empire, and you can go and see the expanse of where they were. And you could also see where certain kingdoms overlap. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the deeper I dig, like I said, the more you find that they had more communication. So we can't just, like I said, limit it to that particular movement. People move around all the time, but we know based off of even their own traditions of what they stated where they were. And we also have records of the tribes and where battles were fought and where they were taken from. And we also have narratives of deportations into certain areas, you know what I'm saying, of the actual Spanish or the Portuguese in their conquest. And it talks about where they found them, and then also where they brought them to in slavery. So people have been shifted around, but it's basically a broad overview of where they were initially based off of those accounts.
Got you. And then the last question, I guess, will be, I think it's Zebulon that you guys point to. I think it's the scripture. Where is it?
In Genesis 49,
to where you get Zebulon, and I think in the video you mentioned how it says in the scripture that their borders will be on the water, and then you point to the Panama Canal. But the Panama Canal didn't exist back then. So I'm just trying to figure out, how do we establish the boundaries of the ancient tribes if we don't necessarily understand, like if we have to use modern mapping to figure out what these regions are, how do we establish the boundaries of ancient tribes? Or are we just picking who sounds like they fit the verse?
So it comes down to two things, and then I'll expound a little bit more on, like, you know what I'm saying, as far as the descriptions. One, the description of where the tribes would be, if you read in the beginning of Genesis 49, it says in the last days. So it doesn't talk about, you know what I'm saying, as to this is going to be their borders of Israel. Okay. It doesn't talk about this is going to be their borders when you conquer the promised land. It says, let me tell you what's going to befall them in the last days. Because even if you were to look at something as simple as a troop shall overcome Gad, a troop shouldn't be overcoming Gad inside their own land if we haven't broken the curses to be punished, to have to get out of another captivity. So this is a prophecy concerning where they're going to be. And you'd have to show me where Zebulon had a port at inside of their own land and was a haven for ships. But this is what we do know, because it's prophecy, it would absolutely fit if this place was a quote unquote either seafaring people, or if there was a canal that was a port where they're dwelling in the last days. So because it's a prophecy, it wouldn't matter whether or not, you know what I'm saying, they did it to better circumnavigate the area. You know what I'm saying? The point is that this is where they would be in the future. Now, how that was established to me is really irrelevant if it's a prophecy, because none of it has happened yet when it was written in Genesis 49. And that kind of ties into the prophetic nature, right? So I'll give you an example that's a little bit more widely accepted, you know what I'm saying, in the mainstream. The vast majority of Christendom will agree that America, or at least the system of America, is either the capital, the heart of, or a part of the Babylonian system. And they treat it like this is modern day Babylon. And it's not because Babylon is written in the scriptures. It's because there are spiritual and prophetic attributes that describes this place. So as a result, there are physical and spiritual characteristics that are described throughout the Bible, not just in Genesis 49. I think Genesis 49 is the main roadmap. Deuteronomy, the 33rd chapter, and as well as just all throughout the scriptures that combine all of this in order to talk about these people, you know what I'm saying, being the Israelites according to a prophetic nature. Once you get past that, then we can also go and look up archaeology that was found inside the Americas. Then we can also go and look up, you know what I'm saying? Like you could literally go and look up from the 1500s all the way up into, like, you know what I'm saying, like the 18th century, the British, German, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, who all have interactions, you know what I'm saying, the French, with the indigenous of the land. And it's not like it's one type of person. One of them is an explorer. Another one is a conquistador. Another one is a historian. Another one is a friar. You get what I'm saying? Like they all have different vocations. And over, you know what I'm saying, more than one century, people from different portions of the country who all had, or rather the world, who all had different vocations, all came down to the same conclusion when studying these people. They say they have definite fast days. They keep a 7-day Sabbath. They refrain from touching their woman when they're on their menstrual cycle. They labeled the pig as an unclean animal, and they start to look at all this and compare it to the record that they have, that is the Bible, and they say, yo, this could possibly be the lost tribes because of their culture. And then over time, through the colonization, it dissipates. Until now, you know, every Puerto Rican's eating pork. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of the dishes.
Got it. Okay, no, I appreciate that. Do we have any history of any maritime practices from the Israelites, like how they would actually make that journey across the Atlantic?
So what you have is probably two things that I could think of offhand. One, the scriptures talks about Solomon having a navy, and it also talks about his ships taking trips that were around the same, you know what I'm saying, length of the voyage. It said that the children of Israel took in order to get to Arsareth, which, since you like, you know, mistransliterations, is a transliteration of Eretz, what we call Arataza, just meaning another land or country. But where he would go to the gold mines of Ophir, the trip was 1.5 years. And Solomon would send his military, you know what I'm saying, and not military, and send his navy in order to retrieve this gold. There's also a museum. Don't quote me off the name of it right now. I do have a book. Like, if you want to email me in the correspondence, I could send you what it's actually called, which is they do have a inside of the Jewish History Museum in Israel, they actually have a maritime section. And then what we also have, because people want to act like the people of the Americas, you know what I'm saying, were, you know, just fools who couldn't do anything. You know what I'm saying? You can actually go and look up. There's an actual correspondence of Cortez speaking with Montezuma and he asked him, you know, how do we get around? And he handed him maps that the Spanish were able to perfectly navigate from there through Honduras and all throughout the Americas based off of those maps. And from Montezuma's own words, he said, we came from the east, crossed the Great Water, and that's where we settled here. So once you add all of that together, you see it with not only Israel, but you see that the natives had maritime skills as well.
All right, no, I appreciate that, Cap. And then again, thank you for your patience. I know, you know, I could be a little slow sometimes, you know what I mean? But like I said, I appreciate you taking the time to answer my questions. I'm not sure if anybody else got questions, but I can segue into what your original topic was, which was Christmas. I know Captain Zariak pressed me on celebrating Christmas. And I just want to know, how do you guys define worship? Because I know the title was Christians Worship Idols. I'm assuming that idol is the Christmas tree of Jeremiah 10, which
yes.
I disagree with. But how do you define worship, and
so
then apply that to the tree?
This is what I would like to do. I do have a caller on the line.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Like, you monopolized a little bit of the time, so you can hang out. Let me get to the caller, and then, you know what I'm saying, I'll come back.
Respect.
Got you. So 559, you're on the air with Cross the Line Radio. State your name, where you're calling from. Fresno, California. What's your name? Oh, Ryan. All right. What's you got a question or a comment?
Yeah, hero. Upload. What about on YouTube?
Correct. Though the Bible says that Jesus is not the Most High.
Slacker, sir. We can't hear the callers.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. I have to add you. They cannot hear you at home. So let me add you to the stream. Add to stage. Switch this off so nobody can see your number. Can you start talking?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, can y'all hear him now?
Perfect.
All right, we're good to go. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, we hear you now.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to tell you that by saying that Jesus is not God, that's a damnable heresy, because Jesus is the only begotten human life of God, born into the world and resurrected to eternal glory.
Okay, you could throw as much rhetoric as you want out, but this is what we know. We know, according to the scriptures, there is one God. There is not a Trinity. Every single verse that I could show you where Christ has his own God. So let me ask you this: does the Most High have a God?
No, the Most High is God, but he came. He was born into the world as a creature of creation. He was born into the world as a human being, the Lord Jesus Christ, and he was resurrected to eternal glory. Yes, there's only one God.
Yeah, there is only one God.
And
the Most High does not have a God. But you know who does have a God? Jesus Christ has a God.
Yes, because he is the human life of God. He is the human life of God born into the world.
Yeah, he was born into the world because he was human.
Yes, he worships God. He worships God as we worship God, but he is the human life of God. He is the incarnation of God.
So you're making him. So you're making him
human incarnation.
Wait, so you're making him worship himself. So every time Christ prayed, he's praying to himself.
He's praying to his self as God.
So
but he is the incarnation of God. In Revelation.
So your God
chapter,
got split personality. He's a schizophrenic. He talks to himself out loud.
No. In Revelation 17, or in Revelation 1:17 and 18, he says, "I am the first and the last. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore." And only one person is the first and the last.
Okay.
God became a man.
The first and the last
became a mortal man.
Hold on. The first and the last is talking about him being Adam. It's the first man Adam and last man Adam. It's not talking about him being the Most High.
No. In God says before, "I am the first and the last, and there is no God beside me."
Correct. And I don't know how you read that in Isaiah and say that there's no God beside me, and then try to put Christ beside him as the same?
No, because Christ is the incarnation of God. God is an infinite being. He's an infinite being without a body. He's from everlasting to everlasting in his being.
So what's hold on. So what's everlasting, that you won't die?
Of course.
Okay.
No, he's everlasting as the Father, but he became a man. God can become a man. God can become whoever he wants to.
Okay.
God was born into the world as a man.
God never became a man to be born into the world. Christ did, because God sent him. They are separate entities. They are not the same being.
Yes, God sent Christ. God sent himself to become a man.
Y'all have a schizophrenic God. Do you know that?
That is not.
So there's hold on. There's
Christ
prophecies. I want to ask you something. There's prophecies of Christ in the Old Testament, right?
Yes.
So where's the prophecy
The
that
Messiah.
hold on. So where's the prophecy that God was going to come down himself?
He says, I don't know the exact verse off the top of my head, but he said, I will send my messenger before me.
He said, I will send my messenger. He didn't say, I'm coming as the messenger. I got to come down here and fix this.
No. He said, I am sending my messenger before me.
So God sent,
and that he is coming.
So
He's the one that's going to come.
You can't hear yourself. He's coming. I'm sending him. He's not saying I'm coming. I'm sending myself.
He sent himself as a human being, though.
But what I'm saying is,
Holy Spirit.
where is the prophecy that says that? You're trying to quote a prophecy of it separating and sending someone else, not coming down himself.
Sir, he just stepped in the bag and started zipping himself up.
This is insane.
No, that's him. God is coming as a man.
Where's the prophecy for that?
As a man.
Where's the prophecy for that? Crickets.
No, I just don't have the verse off the top of my head, but it does say it in the Bible that God will come.
Where in the Old Testament does it say God is coming down here? I've seen where it says the earth is my footstool. I've seen that. I've seen him say he's gonna kick his feet up. Where's the prophecy?
Malachi 3:1.
Okay, and it says,
behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord whom ye seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. He will prepare the way before me, God said.
Yeah, because when Christ is here, do you know what it says? Christ had a title called, I'm explaining to you.
Because he is the human life of God.
You know that they told I got you. Hold on.
That's the verse.
Because
hold on. Does it say that God
the
will
more
come?
that you talk and the more that you add these points, the more that I have to address. So now I'm gonna go in reverse order. The first thing is, when you hear about them being one, that's on one accord. That doesn't mean that they are the same. We're supposed to be 1, 2. That's why when you read verses like John 17, I'm going to start at 10, and it says, and all mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them. And now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world. And I come to thee, Holy Father, keep through thine own name those whom thou hast given me. Now notice this. The Father gave this to him, just like the Father is the one who sent him, sent the messenger, that they may be one as we are. Because for us to be one with him, it doesn't mean we're the same. It means we are on one accord. We obey. And that's what Christ did as his messenger and as he was sent. So this way that's been prepared, as you want to talk about inside of Malachi, was for the messenger that is Christ. It wasn't him literally. It wasn't him coming down literally. You understand? It was so that this way we can get back to serving the Most High.
Well, Christ is the image of the invisible God, Colossians 1:15, and we are one with Christ. So that answers your point there.
So since we're one, am I Christ?
No.
Oh,
If
okay.
you are a true believer in Christ, you are one with Christ.
So me
if
and
you are a
so
true
me
believer,
wait
you are not the Lord.
So
Jesus
wait
Christ.
so me and Christ being one doesn't make us the same, but Christ and the Most High being one makes them the same.
Yes. Christ is one with the Most High, and we are one with God when we become a true believer.
But your version of one. Hold on, your version of one for them is that they're the same being, but it's not when it comes down to me and Christ being one.
If you are a child of God, you are one with Christ.
You're a little incoherent, but does that me being one with Christ make us the same person?
We got a super chat.
No, just as the Lord Jesus
Hold on 1 second. What's the super chat?
He is the human life of God.
Time out.
Oh yeah, hey, man, they paid to put you in timeout. I got you. I got to put you on mute for 5 minutes. You on timeout? All right, we coming back. Big up to Robert Bryant. You know what I'm saying for muting that idiot. All right, so now we have. All right, we got about 5 minutes left, you know what I'm saying, before we got to end. I think we can get a little bit of the Christmas tree in. So, Cliff, it's back to you.
I appreciate that, Cap. Yeah, no. So just to reiterate, my question was, we know that you obviously the title in the show was that Christians worship idols, and I'm assuming that the idol you're referring to is the Christmas tree.
For sure.
As you guys quote or translate Jeremiah 10, obviously I don't translate Jeremiah 10 as a Christmas tree, particularly because it says it carves the tree with an axe. Nobody carves a Christmas tree. Also, Christmas trees didn't exist until the 14th century. So I've heard some people say that, it could be talking about the future, but that doesn't seem like it's talking about the future. It's talking about what the locals, the people that are around them, were actually doing at that time. I've seen a video, somebody describe the act of decorating a Christmas tree is similar to the custom, but then that kind of gets away from the idolatry part. So I think whether or not it's idolatry all depends on how you define worship.
Okay, so when it comes down to worship, right? Like you can read inside the Old Testament where it says that they worshiped God and the king. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the problem isn't so much about what worship actually is. The problem is, I'll explain it like this. Who could make straight what God made crooked? If there's a pagan tradition which has an idol, which is the worship of another God, you're now breaking the first commandment. So there's nothing wrong with worshiping God, or you understand, giving praise to a servant of God in the process of serving the Most High, because the glory of it is for the Lord. Whether it's a messenger, whatever the case may be. The issue does lie, though, when the Lord is warning you not to learn any of the customs of the heathens. And these customs are specifically the worship of another God, of something that is not God. And down to even the carving, this is what it does say, though. You know what I'm saying? It says that it cutteth out the tree from the forest, right, and carry it that it need because it needs to be born, meaning it needs to be carried home. You know what I'm saying? That's literally what they do with the Christmas tree. This is an ancient
right there real quick.
Go ahead, please.
So from my understanding, the idols that these especially Canaanite deities, they would carry them around to festivals and carry them into battle. Romans did it too. They would carry their idols with them because they can't walk. The scripture in Jeremiah 10 also says they can't walk and they can't talk. Nobody expects Christmas trees to walk or talk. They don't have mouths either. They don't have feet. So,
right.
So it seems like we're putting a lot of weight on the fact that you have to cut a tree down from the forest, and then we make the jump to say, hey, you have to cut a tree down from the forest, and then carry it into your house, and then we kind of ignore everything else. We ignore the fact that you have to carve it. We ignore the fact that Jeremiah is talking about how it doesn't speak. I don't think people are expecting a tree to speak. And then I asked about the thing about worship. You know, if it's an idol, a worship means that you're giving devotion to that idol. I don't think anybody's devoting themselves to a tree. I don't think they're sacrificing to the tree. I don't think they're bowing to the tree. So there's a lot of different forms of worship. But I don't see none of those actually being practiced when it comes to, say, even modern Christianity. Now, I don't agree that modern day Christianity, especially in America, Christmas has anything remotely to do with Christ. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm not really like, gun ho. I don't decorate my house and do all that, because I think it's secular. I wouldn't call it pagan. I would call it secular. But I don't see how we make that jump from a Christmas tree to Canaanite deities.
I'm gonna explain it to you, because the tradition of it was, and I'll kind of give you like a modern example. Every single idol isn't just an idol that you carry around with you. There are idols that you put in your yard. There's idols. There's idols that you put in. There are idols that you put inside your house. I'll give you a modern day example. You could walk into an Asian restaurant and there'll be a Buddha statue.
Yeah.
And in that
with the hand,
right. And do you know what they put at that Buddha statue?
Food,
tribute. And do you know what would happen if you disrespected that idol, or if I went over there and started eating the grapes that they put in front of the Buddha statue? They would act as if that statue is going to come to life, or their God is going to judge them.
Going to do something. Yeah,
exactly. Well, it's no different than, I'll give you another modern example. Santa Claus. If you're bad, you know what I'm saying, you're going to get coal. You know what I'm saying? If you're good, you're going to get a gift inside your stocking, because he knows when you're awake. He knows when you're sleeping. When there are things, legends, myths, these things have power to judge you. The reason as to why it was saying be not afraid is because the tradition at this time was that if you disrespected that idol, or if you didn't obey, you would be judged, and then that tree would come to life, and you know what I'm saying, and attack you. You get what I'm saying? So he's saying it can't speak. It's dumb. It can't move. This idol can't hurt you, just like the Buddha statue, just like all the idols that's in the world. So when you could apply those practices to like modern day things, you can see as to why he was letting them know you don't have to be afraid of this tree. Right. Because, you know what I'm saying, disrespecting that idol meant punishment for them who disrespected it. But guess what else you do see? You see it being cut down. You see it being brought. You don't see it being carried around once it's brought back to where you are. They fasten it down so it can't move.
But that's not what Canaanites did, though. Canaanite deities, because we have to
hold on.
I'm sorry,
just know, we're reading the Bible.
Yeah.
And inside of Babylon at this present point in time and practice, this is how they're saying, like, there's the reason as to why Jeremiah is saying this is done is because this is what he's witnessing.
Right.
So
but he's not describing the practice exhaustively, meaning he's not describing every detail. He's describing key details. But when we exegete,
but do you know why? But do you know why he's describing those practices?
And historical context.
But he's describing those practices because those are the practices he's witnessing.
Right. No, I agree.
If those practices,
I just don't agree that when we look at a modern Christmas tree and we decorate the Christmas tree, that's similar to what Canaanites were doing. So I think all we got is you cut a tree down and you put the tree in your house. I think that's the only connection.
I'm gonna take it. That's not, because you also have songs like silver and gold, which is what you decorate the tree with, even inside of Jeremiah. You know what I'm saying? So you mean to tell me that we have another coincidence of a well-decorated tree being brought out, and now here's how you know.
Again,
Hold on. Here's how you know that the tree is an idol. Why do you put the gifts under the tree? Why is that
for the tree?
Why is that? Hold on. Why is that the tradition?
Are they not for the tree?
I need you to answer me. Why do the gifts, are they said to be placed under the tree and left there?
Because that's where Santa supposedly leaves it.
Okay, but all the gifts don't come from Santa. I don't know. So I used to celebrate Christmas, right?
Right.
And when I've gone to anybody's house, there were gifts that we bought each other.
Right.
And we would put them under the tree.
Right.
And then you're not supposed to touch those gifts until the day of the 25th.
Right.
And then guess what happens? While I slept, my family would bring things out from Santa, and there would be more gifts in the morning.
Right. Yeah, no, I feel it, yeah.
And guess where Santa left those gifts? Under the tree.
Right.
So my point is, of all the places in the world, because why are they leaving fruit in front of Buddha?
To feed him.
Because it's tribute. Well, guess what? The tree is tribute.
To who?
The gifts are tribute to the tree.
Really?
Yes, that's where the tradition comes from historically. That's
what I'm saying is are people actually making tribute to the tree or each other?
So unknowingly, right? Unknowingly, they are, by having the entire practice, because
you don't think intention matters?
No, and I'll tell you why. You know what I'm saying? I'll give you 2 examples of intention, and then after that, we got to wrap it up. But you could always call back at another time because we over the time. But I'll say it for this point. 2 examples inside the scriptures of intention. 1, there was a point where the earth shook, and the Ark of the Covenant was rocking, and someone guarding it, who was warned never to touch it, tried to save it, and guess what God did? He slew him off the rip, because you know why? It's obedience over intention. Same thing with Saul. King Saul was ordered what? To destroy all their animals and to not spare any of the Amalekites. And what he do? He spared the Amalekites he wanted and took the animals he wanted, and then said, I was going to offer sacrifice. And what did Samuel say? Obedience is better than sacrifice. Your intentions mean nothing, which is why I started this conversation with, who can make straight what the Lord made crooked? So your intentions, ignorantly, which is what all of us did, could be family, love, and following this tradition. But this tradition has pagan origins, and it's what we were warned against from the beginning. So because of that, and this tradition's been reverse engineered from Babylon all the way to Rome, because Rome would adopt traditions from other people and relabel them, from Saturnalia, and then now putting Christmas on it. Now here we are. And now you got things like the mistletoe and the Yule log and the wreath on the door, which all of these are from pagan practices that Rome stole and rebranded from other countries, which got commercialized in America. So if God warned about it, we're not to do it.
All right. I mean, I ain't gonna give you no rebuttals. I know you got to wrap it up or whatnot, but I like I said, I appreciate you answering the questions. I appreciate you taking the time. Let me know how I can donate for your time. I might be back on next week. Like I said, I got a brother that I know who's with the ISUPK here in Chicago. He's the one who gave me the link. So shouts out to him. Shouts out to Captain Zariak.
No sweat. If you want, you could send the super chat in if you want to make a donation. You know what I'm saying? You could come back to the show. And like I said, I don't think I think me and you, once we got to South America, had a little bit more of a better dialogue. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I don't think it's an issue if we disagree. Or even if we take a moment before where you said, could I interject? I just think that once we start over talking each other, this is where it's well, I don't think you really want to hear shit I got to say. So things turn up a little bit. But you know what I'm saying? I definitely appreciate the conversation.
No, thank you. And like I said, I hope I didn't give that off. I definitely did want to hear what you guys had to say. I didn't want to just come over here like some people do and they just want to talk. I
think the difference was you had an actual stance you stood on with Wahuda. You know what I'm saying? Right. And you were more inquisitive when it came down to how we rectify the things inside South America. So I think that you didn't really have a stance yet. You're probably going to go study it and try to challenge me in a month. But you know what I'm saying? I'm cool with it either way.
I got that book, that Bureau Ethnology book. It was actually I saw it in your videos. It was actually available online for free. So I got a copy of that book too. So I was looking over the transcripts. But like I said, I appreciate your
no
time.
doubt.
Yep.
No, for sure. Good talking to you. All right, shalom. So, my brother Matabar is on it. Matabar, Yishabrakta, what's up, brother? We closing out, man. But you got any closing statements?
Actually, I was struck there, sir. Hey, make sure you pay your Passover fee, man. Be over at that Passover April 4th down in Houston, Texas, man. And subscribe to all our SUPK channels. Also, pay your tithes. Pay your tithes. You know what I'm saying? But I was gonna say when the brother had brought out that thing about we don't bow down to a tree. Yeah, you do bow down to a tree. Every time you put a present under there, you got to bow down.
Yeah, man.
That's all I wanted to say, sir.
It's no sweat. I appreciate you hopping in, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to, you know what I'm saying, Louisiana, UPK. And for the other Christians who didn't call up tonight, we know what you were doing with your holiday ham and your Babylonian idols. We know you were busy tonight.
Yeah, they ham.
But listen, man, you know what I'm saying? Pay your tithes, send in them Passover fees. You know what I'm saying? Start working on your trip down to the Lord's, you understand, Passover this year, April 4th, Houston, Texas. It's going down Sunday. Join us. We'll be streaming again, talking about the body bags, you know what I'm saying, that Cliff and Stuart Knichel, you know what I'm saying, got zipped up in with Matan. We almost, you know what I'm saying, at 1 million views. We had about 930,000 last time that I checked. And with that, we out. Shalom, yo.